Hi Joe, how are you today? Saturday morning in New Zealand.
It sure is. It sure is. I'm just putting a pencil in my hair to try and hold it back because that's the kind of girl I am, on the off the
You've
cuff.
just been exercising. You look very fit, I have to say. What have you been doing?
Went for a run because I've promised myself, we did a big thing on goal setting earlier on in COVID. So
Yeah,
I've changed my goals for level 3 and I've decided I'm running every single day during level 3.
amazing. What time were you out this morning? Because I was on the beach. I wondered if you might have run past me.
I know I did miss you because I seen your video on Facebook of the kite surface, which was amazing. I was there just after you because by then the kites had gone plop in
Oh,
the water. So yes, I was up about 7:30 maybe. I went out running at 7:30.
did you see there was a line across the sky that was completely black? So it was cloud in one half and then light and blue sky the other half, but it wasn't sort of a fuzzy, fluffy cloud edging. It was just a line. Did you see it? Or was that a bit earlier? It was amazing.
I think it might have been a bit early when I came out. It cleared a little bit, but there's been some amazing skies recently as well, hasn't there?
Yeah, I have. Anyway, today we're going to chat about all the guests, our amazing guests that we've had on board and guests that we've got coming up. So we've just released Jack Contrell, who is our TeenPOD guest, and he was talking about not knowing what you want to do at university. So he started a course, didn't he? And then it wasn't for him. So he took some time out, went overseas to America to do some outward bound, came back, is now doing a different course, but he doesn't even know if that's for him. We were talking about the feelings associated with that, but that's actually okay. Lots of adults don't even know what they want to do. So that's okay, isn't it?
And do you know what I liked about him? Because he knows that he's doing a business degree, isn't he? So it's going to be useful in life somewhere along the way, and he knows that. But he's like, actually, I just want a degree now. So his goal at one point, wasn't it, to go to an Ivy League college in America? And then he thought, actually, I'm not good enough at rowing. I won't win a scholarship. So he actually he realized that goal wasn't perhaps realistic. And we talk about our goals being smart, don't we? And that part of smart is it is being realistic. And then he changed his goal and went off to study law. And now he's doing business. And he knows that maybe it's not the most thrilling of things to do, but he's sticking with it to get that degree because the goal now is just to have a degree. And I think good on him. And he was so honest, wasn't he, about anxiety and the things he learned when he went over to America on his outward bound course. It was really refreshing. And I know you have as well, Sue, but we've received some really amazing feedback already, haven't we?
Yeah, I think I've had comments saying Jack had really encouraged other students at university who didn't think they were doing the right course, didn't know what they were going to do at the end. Were they wasting money? Were they wasting their time? So that's really encouraging. And interestingly, by contrast, we're releasing a chap next week, Lewis, who knew he didn't want to go to university and went down a different route, didn't he?
He did. And he had such a passion for cars that he knew he wanted to be in the car industry. He didn't really know what he wanted to do in the car industry. So he was just courageous and had guts. He just went and knocked on people's doors pretty much and said, is there any jobs? And he left school a little bit early, maybe I think year 12, and he got a job in a car was it a car sale? It was a car garage, wasn't it? And he started grooming cars. He started cleaning them, moving them around on the forecourt and all that. He started at the bottom and he worked his way up. And he's so inspirational, isn't he? And he's so entrepreneurial.
And ended up buying the business that he was working in as well.
I know, 10 years to the day almost later.
I know, and he's really infectious, isn't he? He's got such a lovely personality. He's wearing this gorgeous shirt as well, I was really impressed because it was so beautifully ironed. It looked as though it was brand new. And I just thought, you're in lockdown and you're wearing this amazing shirt. And he said it was just great, wasn't it, to have that opportunity to actually get dressed up in lockdown. He was amazing. We've also released this week Kwa Tran, haven't we, who had a car accident and was left as a double amputee and is, again, so passionate about life. And the story in it is, how do you overcome major adversity and crisis in your life? How do you get to restore a life that has value and meaning? And not only that, but actually thrive in it. And he really is thriving in his life, working in a gym and at the moment doing online classes. Gosh, what a personality. In fact,
he is living proof that it's your choice. We're forever saying things like, this is your life, you decide. And he just epitomizes that. He has chosen to focus on what he can do, not what he can't do. And he did that pretty much quite immediately, I mean, I know he went through that little period in hospital where he was drugged up, he was on morphine, had no idea really what was going on, hadn't really come to grips with the fact that he'd lost his legs. And then, but from when he did, of course there's been hard moments and dark moments, which he admits to, but he doesn't focus on them. He allows them to happen. And it's that acceptance, isn't it? It's that going with the flow.
And that's what we talk about in all the podcasts, isn't it? It's when you reach that moment of stress, fear, anxiety, overwhelm, loss of hope, first of all, you need to come to a place of acceptance. This is where I'm at, and it is ugly. It is really horrific or traumatizing, whatever it looks like for you. And just to be in that place and just accept it and allow yourself a period of time to grieve. And most of our guests have also acknowledged that they have done that for themselves. They've acknowledged that there needs to be a process of grieving and then recovery. And it's amazing because so many of them then come into gratitude, being so grateful for what they've got, but then still admitting it's the journey of highs and lows and ups and downs. It's never straightforward. We never arrive at our destination, do we? We always are on this journey. And what does the journey look like today? Today is the important day. It's not what's going to happen in the future. It's actually today. Who am I connected with today? What can I share today? What can I give away? How can I love myself? How can I love others? How can I do my own work? And I just think our guests have just been, I mean, for me, they've been really inspiring for me, really motivational, taught me so much as well. I've just loved them.
But don't you think it's like, because we're both coaches, we both work a lot with teenagers and families, we get just as much out of those coaching sessions as our client does. You know, we learn just as much through that process. We never stop learning. And I'm exactly the same as you. Every single guest we have on the podcast inspires me. And even if it's things that we already know, we sometimes learn it in a slightly different way, or we learn it from a slightly different angle. And it's just more enriching, isn't it? And I mean, look how beautiful Charlene is. Charlene Lynch, we're releasing her either Tuesday or Wednesday. She is a motivational speaker. She's got oodles of experience in the business world as a business coach, but she's got one of the most hideous stories. You know, she found her son and he had taken his own life. I mean, I bawled my eyes out. I found that interview extremely hard, and not as hard as her, obviously, but how courageous, how brave, how beautiful. And she made a conscious decision to forgive her son for the decision he made. And then to thrive, not survive. Again, it's the same message. It was a choice. She has chosen to do that. And of course, she has the most darkest of moments and she grieves and she misses him. But she's chosen for it to be a legacy, to turn her life around and to thrive for her son. So beautiful and so breathtaking. And honestly, I am astounded by the human spirit.
And her message of wanting to thrive instead of survive seems to be the message of most of the guests, if not all the guests that we've had on board. It's not that they just want to pick up their lives and carry on. There's a greater purpose. It's almost they've crossed the line, and all the peripheral, what's the word I'm looking for?
Peripheral.
Thank you. Things in life become irrelevant, and all the things that we would get bogged down by before become irrelevant. So you can actually look at the things that you could be really grateful for your life, actually, at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And I think Brett is a really good example that we interviewed last week as well. We haven't released him yet, but we're going to release him soon. And again, he spent years in a depression and then came to a place of deciding to turn his life around, and he's now thriving again in a very different place. And he talks about the power of connectivity, men being with men empowering men to tell a story, men empowering each other to be vulnerable and therefore to be real and to be true to themselves. And how many men, and I'm not generalizing here, I'm just talking about men in this category because he was talking about men, shut down for themselves, don't admit anxiety and fear and all those emotions that we all carry, and therefore it cripples them. And his manifestation of being crippled was obviously depression. But what that looks like for him now that he's faced it and dealt with it and is growing and empowering other men and running courses for men to be set free as well, and again working men on men. Amazing. What a privilege. I feel so honored to be working with such extraordinary people.
So do I, and they just keep coming into our lives. It's just so amazing. And when you were talking then, what really what really sprung to mind, our first joint mentor, Sam Cawthorne, he has painted a phrase which is bounce forward. Because at the end of the day, people are always talking about bouncing back. Well, oh, you'll bounce back from that. You'll bounce back from that. However, you never bounce back because you're never the same person as you was before. You know, you've changed as a person. We are not who we were yesterday. We're somebody different today. We're you know, I say we're more enriched. We've learnt more lessons. So we bounce forward, and all of our guests are living proof of that. They have bounced forward to a different place, to a different realm almost, on a spiritual level, physical, emotional. It's heart, it's body, mind, spirit, isn't it? All encompassed.
And I think you're so right about bouncing forward. On Monday, you haven't met her yet, but we're interviewing this gorgeous girl for our TeenPODS series, Ellie Wilson, as you know, and she's now 19. But Lucy and I were chatting about this morning. She was a friend of Lucy's at school, and aged 10, I think she was 10, and her mother passed away of cancer. And she'd had cancer for a while, and her mother was a great friend of mine. She was gorgeous, and not long afterwards her father then passed away. And so Ellie grew up with amazing supportive family, but it was not her mother and father. And so I can't wait to hear her story, because she's been in Africa quite recently, working out there, and I can't wait to hear of her story of working in Africa with orphanage children as well, and her telling her story. How courageous is that, age 19, to come on our podcast and tell us? Because the story is constantly, I mean, we started the podcast series, didn't we, because we were really concerned about the high teen suicide stats in New Zealand. It's the highest in the world. And so our heart is for teenagers, but we just love people. And the message is that so many people overcome horrific situations, circumstances, adversity, suffering. And yet we want to put the message out there to those people that feel hopeless, because when you're in a desperate situation, it's so overwhelming, it's so dark, you can't see the way out. Suicide now is an option in many ways. It wasn't so much an option before because there wasn't social media, but it is an option nowadays. We want to put the message out that when you're in those dark times, when it's bleak and black, that there is always hope. And it might come in terms of a friend just knocking on the door, or just calling at that moment you need somebody, or just a voice in your head of somebody that loves you, reminding you of your value and your purpose. And to listeners today that are feeling hopeless and worthless, valueless, you are so valuable. And I felt really valueless in my life, but then I realized I have to find that value for myself, and I value myself now to the point where I'm not going to let other people devalue me. And I love myself to the place where I don't need to put myself in situations where others don't love me. I'm going to go on my journey, my path, whatever that looks like. I'm not hanging back, I'm not waiting, I'm going to go. And if people want to catch up with me, that's great, but I'm going on my path. And my message to you listeners is, go on that path, go on that journey with you. If you're only with you and no one else, nobody wants to come on with you, go on that path and that journey. Joe's done it, I've done it, and it doesn't mean it's easy, does it, Joe?
It's quite messy, it's quite horrible. There's lots of tears, snot, you know, the whole shebang. It's just really messy, but it's worth every tear. It's worth every breakthrough. It's worth every setback, because there is always setbacks as well. But the journey to finding inner peace and your value is so worthwhile. Like, you know, you just live a totally different life, don't you?
Yeah, and the joy, then there's incredible joy that comes into it, and freedom. That's what I hadn't realized before. We're always seeking this place of happiness, but true joy that is not just a happy moment that comes and goes. True joy is found within that place of peace that you come to because you love yourself. And that joy doesn't necessarily ever go. You can have highs and lows, but that joy and the sense of freedom is always there, in and amongst the obstacles. But the other thing I loved about my journey, and still love about my journey, is those people that come into it and walk stages of it with you. Some stay the long haul, some come and go, but there's always somebody there to walk apart with you and almost hold your hand through it and befriend you through it. And I'm just thinking of all the times you and I have cried, but we've also, and we've only known each other for a year, but on our journey of working together, we've cried a lot, but we've also laughed so much. So it's the laughter with the tears that make both valuable.
Absolutely. And you know, I was just thinking then, like a friend sent a text this morning from the UK, and she's having a really tough time. And she's got endometriosis, she's got twins, she's trying to work, she's an essential worker as well. She's got shit tons on her plate. So I get this text, and it's been a hard week, blah, blah. And I send one back about my week, and there is stuff going on, by the way. I won't bore you with all the details, but I wrote my list as well. Well, this has happened, and this has happened. Oh, and did I tell you about this? And then I wrote at the end, but actually I'm okay. Weirdly, I'm fine. And it's not like a weird facade that I'm putting on. Don't get me wrong, I have really dark moments. I sit and accept what's going on. I work through those processes over and over again, the process we talk about on the podcast, the tips, the tools, the techniques, use them all. But actually deep down, I'm okay because I have the knowledge and the inner, I don't know what it is, the inner breakthrough to know that I'm always going to be okay.
Yeah, and that's an incredible stage to get to. And I think that's, if you and I wind back the clock many years to when we were in abusive relationships and going through the worst that we probably could imagine at the time, didn't think we'd ever have to live through. I think you have a dark time and it takes a long time to get out of it. There's a lot of crying, there's a lot of maybe anger and all the emotions you're feeling in it, and phoning friends and asking for support, or sitting at home not being able to go out or put your makeup on and do your hair. But then what's interesting is along that journey, as you get setbacks and knocks, the recovery time from the setbacks is less and less and less and less, to the place you get to the point where you have a setback, you pick yourself up and you just carry on, and it doesn't affect you. You don't go into those dark places. And again, that's the journey of healing, not just from the situation that you face at that time, but also unacknowledged childhood trauma that comes before that, where you're healing your whole journey. And I said to my children this week, your lifelong journey is to forgive your parents for the role they played in not giving you what you felt you needed or wanted, and then learning that actually they taught you the lessons that you've needed through that journey. You need to forgive, you need to move on. And it's our lifelong journey, forgiveness and acceptance and self-love, which I think you and I now find really exciting, although we wouldn't have probably said it a few years ago.
No, we didn't.
Don't keep going deep. People are texting me and messaging me all over the place.
But we know more now than what we knew then. And, in another year's time, we'll know more then than what we know now. And that's the exciting part of the journey, isn't it? We just keep on learning, we keep on growing, and the healing gets deeper. And sometimes it's not easier. Sometimes it's really not. Sometimes you go back and go, whoa, where did that come from? I wasn't really expected to be floored by something quite so little. But then you realize it's not that little. There's actually, as you say, there's that childhood trauma and grief there. But it's, as we say, it's worthwhile. And all of our guests, even though they have all faced very different things, you and I have had a journey. Our journeys, we have similarities, but we have huge differences as well. And all our guests are the same, yet the feelings are still the same. We all carry guilt, shame, embarrassment, hurt, resentment, bitterness, and they're the things that we have to get through. They're the breakthroughs. It's not necessarily losing a limb. It's not necessarily, being in an abusive relationship. It's the feelings that you've got to work on.
And that's what was interesting about Brett's talk, is that he didn't realize that all those feelings were there, hidden in him, buried in him. He was just doing life, and he was training as a chiropractor, doing quite well in life. He was married, but he didn't realize that there was an underlying turmoil, sort of turbulence going on in him, which manifests as depression. And the minute he acknowledged there was something there, then he could deal with all those feelings. And a lot of people will be in denial, and even us today still in denial about other aspects of our life that we need to acknowledge, accept, be gentle to ourselves, do the work and move on. And I think that's such an exciting journey for people that haven't done it. It's hard, but it is the most exciting journey you can ever go on, ever. So last week we released Quatran, who is our weekly podcast release. On Friday we released Jack Contrell, who is our TeenPOD. This week we were releasing Charlene on Tuesday or Wednesday. And then on Friday we're releasing our TeenPOD, Lewis.
Yeah, they're all just amazing. I highly recommend that everybody should listen to all of them. And even as we say, the TeenPODs, of course they're directed at the teen or early 20s for people to listen to. But actually I think parents and educators would get just as much out of them. Because really you need, everybody should. Teens get a really hard time, but actually they're amazing, amazing individuals, and they teach us so much about the world. So I just think everybody should listen to them.
And also we have got a book, haven't we, that's coming out, which has been semi-accepted by a publisher, big publisher, which we're really excited about. So we've got to finish that. So keep tuning in there for our book. We are about to release a freemium on self-love, learning to love yourself. And we are in the process of writing a short PDF book come proposal for those in their teens and 20s in lockdown, how to deal with your emotions, feelings, how to survive it, isolation and so on. So we've got lots coming up. I feel like Blue Peter announcements about who's coming on board next week with the dogs, the Alsatian dogs. By the way, I haven't got an Alsatian dog. I've just got an old cat to carry around. Should I bring the cat on board and we could be Blue Peter? We just need a couple of men.
Do you reckon we'll find a couple of men? No. We're Thelma and Louise. We have to just stick together.
I couldn't do Blue Peter because you have to use that sticky back paper. Do you remember?
You're stuck together. Well,
you have to make cardboard houses of kitchens and dining rooms.
No. On that happy note, I think we should just go now.
Okay.
This could get weird.
Nice to see you, Jo.